Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Padavijacharya Ashtottara Tata Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavijacharya Ashtottara Tata Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Now, Mahima. 16. Thanks. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Page 578. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 11th day of November 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 14 entitled, The Three Modes of Material Nature. Text 16 at the bottom of page 578. Okay. Karmana Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Rajasas Tupalam Dukam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam Karmanak Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Rajasas Tupalam Dukam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam Karmanak Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Rajasas Tupalam Dukam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam Karmanak Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Rajasas Tupalam Dukam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam. Tapas chant. Karmanak Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Rajasas Tupalam Dukam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam. Karmanak Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Shastupalam Dukam Ajnanam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam. Karmanak Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Shastupalam Dukam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam. Mahima. Karmanak Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Rajasas Tupalam Dukam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam. Karmanak Sukatasyahu Satvikam Nirmalam Palam Rajasas Tupalam Dukam Ajnanam Tamasakpalam. Anyone online or no? Okay. So I'll read through the word by words. Karmana of work, Sukatasya, pious, Ahu is said, Satvikam in the mode of goodness, Nirmalam purified, Palam the result. Rajasaha of the mode of passion, true, but Palam Dukam misery. Ajnanam nonsense, Tamasaha of the mode of ignorance, Palam the result. Translation. Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, the result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness. Purport. The result of pious activities in the mode of goodness is pure. Therefore the sages, who are free from illusion, are situated in happiness. But activities in the mode of passion are simply miserable. Any activity for material happiness is bound to be defeated. If, for example, one wants to have a skyscraper, so much human misery has to be undergone before a big skyscraper can be built. The financier has to take much trouble to earn a massive wealth, and those who are slaving to construct the building have to render physical toil. The miseries are there. Thus the Bhagavad Gita says that in any activity performed under the spell of the mode of passion, there is definitely great misery.
There may be a little so-called mental happiness, I have this house or this money, but this is not actual happiness. As far as the mode of ignorance is concerned, the performer is without knowledge, and therefore all his activities result in present misery, and afterwards he will go on toward animal life. Animal life is always miserable, although under the spell of the illusory energy, Maya, the animals do not understand this. Slaughtering poor animals is also due to the mode of ignorance. The animal killers do not know that in the future the animal will have a body suitable to kill them. That is the law of nature. In human society, if one kills a man, he has to be hanged. That is the law of the state. Because of ignorance, people do not perceive that there is a complete state controlled by the Supreme Lord. Every living creature is a son of the Supreme Lord, and he, the Lord, does not tolerate even an ant's being killed. One has to pay for it. So indulgence in animal killing for the taste of the tongue is the grossest kind of ignorance. A human being has no need to kill animals because God has supplied so many nice things. If one indulges in meat eating anyway, it is to be understood that he is acting in ignorance and is making his future very dark. Of all kinds of animal killing, the killing of cows is most vicious because the cow gives us all kinds of pleasure by supplying milk. Cow slaughter is an act of the grossest type of ignorance. In the Vedic literature, Rig Veda 9:46-4, the words Gobhi Prinita Matsaram indicate that one who, being fully satisfied by milk, is desirous of killing the cow is in the grossest ignorance. There is also a prayer in the Vedic literature that states, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagad Hitaya Krishnaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. My Lord, you are the well-wisher of the cows and the Brahmins, and you are the well-wisher of the entire human society and world. Vishnu Purana 1:1965. The purport is that special mention is given in that prayer for the protection of the cows and the Brahmins. Brahmins are the symbol of spiritual education, and cows are the symbol of the most valuable food. These two living creatures, the Brahmins and the cows, must be given all protection. That is real advancement of civilization. In modern human society, spiritual knowledge is neglected and cow killing is encouraged. It is to be understood, then, that human society is advancing in the wrong direction and is clearing the path to its own condemnation. A civilization which guides the citizens to become animals in their next lives is certainly not a human civilization. The present human civilization is, of course, grossly misled by the modes of passion and ignorance. It is a very dangerous age, and all nations should take care to provide the easiest process, Krishna consciousness, to save humanity from the greatest danger. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So we're continuing the discussion of the three modes of material nature. What they are and how they influence us. Now, I always like to refer back to this verse, those who have been coming to this class. In the previous chapter, text 22, I believe, it's describing Purushat prakatisto hi bhunkte prakati jan gunan karanam gunasangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. Now, what this verse means is the Purusha, that's us. Now, Purusha is by nature, the definition is like a male or the enjoyer. Now, we're not really the enjoyers. We're energy. We're Prakriti. We're the Para Prakriti, or superior energy of Krishna, known as the marginal energy. But we're spiritual, and therefore we're eternal. But in Maya, when we come to the material world, we forget all about Krishna, we forget about our life in the spiritual world, and we're completely absorbed in the dualities of this material energy. So we try to be the enjoyers. You try to be the controllers. And so this verse describes the living entities in the thrall, if you will. Thrall is the control of Maya, who's trying to be an enjoyer and controller in this world. And so there's Purusha. Prakriti Stohi. He's situated in material energy. That's our situation, the conditioned souls. Bhunkte Prakriti Jangana. Now this word bhunkte often means enjoy. Prabhupada often translates it that way. But in this case, it means experience, because it includes things that we don't enjoy, that are pains, that are sufferings in the material world. So what are we enjoying and suffering in this world? Prakriti Jangunan, Prakriti Jangunan means that which is generated from the material energy. That some things are very painful, some things are pleasurable, they entice us and so forth. This is material life. Bhunkte Prakriti Jan Karanam Gunasangosya. Now, what our future is, because the whole idea of the Bhagavad Gita and the whole Vedic culture is trying to get the longest perspective on your life, because it's such foolishness just to try to enjoy the immediate pleasures when you know, even from experience, that they can lead to the greatest suffering. For drugs, for instance, I always, when I was in the movement, I remember in the 80s, some of you probably don't remember that, you weren't living, but there was various waves of different kinds of drugs out there. Now the devotees, we don't take any drugs, but there was, in the early 80s, crack cocaine became very popular. It was a special kind of cocaine that was even more powerful and easy, quick acting like that, And so here I was in movement. I was in the Miami Temple, and I could just see, because through different turns in my life, I could have been easily addicted to so many things. I was living on the Lower East Side in like 68, 69. The devotees were there. I would hear them on the street. But I was totally an atheist at that time. I was also a street musician, believe it or not. Some of you heard me play the little flute, so I take that out, similar flute, or bongo drums, whatever. And I was always looking for those good rhythms that I could play with, So I would hear that ching, 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 and nice drumming, and say, oh, that sounds pretty good. And I said, oh, God, that's the Hare Krishnas. I don't want anything to do with them. That's my attitude, my attitude at the time. But all around me, the drug culture was going on. And luckily, I had a good upbringing. I was a little saner. I can't say I completely didn't. I used to smoke marijuana, like that, daily. But I never really dove into the complete drug culture, which is really suicidal. I mean, I remember we had a boy here. He had attraction to Krishna consciousness. He came. He was married also. His wife wasn't into it. A young guy, we were all in our mid-20s or something. And he had taken a lot of LSD. And the poor guy, I remember him trying to walk around Tulsi and water Tulsi, and he was having some kind of hallucination or something. And eventually we had to ask him to leave. He just couldn't do it. You can permanently ruin yourself with these things. The brain is such a precious thing. You have to protect it. So Krishna consciousness means, well, how Krishna is instructing us here. So this verse says, as we associate with the modes of nature, we make our destiny. Karanam gunasanga. Gunasanga means association with the different modes. Generally means association with people in those modes. And then you pick up on it. What is that? Sangat sanjayate kama. It's a famous line from the Bhagavad Gita. As you associate, so you develop your desires. Every mother and father know that. They want to know who their kid is associating with. What's he watching on the screen, It's so much more difficult now. With the internet and with all of this thing, everything is available all the time, So, but Krishna consciousness, the instructions given in the Shastra and by the realized souls like Srila Prabhupada, they're training us what to hear, what to read, what to think about, how to direct your attention so that you're associating with the mode of goodness and the mode of pure goodness. Mode of pure goodness is Krishna consciousness. That's what's there in the spiritual world. Shuddha sattva. Shuddha sattva. And we've been learning in this chapter what the effects of these lower modes are. The mode of passion. That's the mode where you're really eager to enjoy sense gratification. And you'll try, if you have yourself together, you'll try to make money so you can enjoy. So that's where greed and lust come in. Those are the gateways to hell, Krishna says in the 16th chapter. Trivadam narakastedam dwaram nashanamatma kama krodha tata lobhas tasmarititudam. 3 gates. Lust, anger, and greed. And all of them are very much associated with the mode of passion and also the mode of ignorance. So the point is, we want to try to raise up to the mode of goodness as far as possible. And that doesn't mean that we're not working hard. If we're working hard for Krishna, we can be in the mode of pure goodness, what to speak of goodness. The whole point, everything depends on our motive. Why are you doing what you're doing? I just heard a lecture this morning. I forget what Prabhupada is speaking on in the Bhagavatam, but he's giving the warning that if you try to perform devotional service for some material benefit, then you'll never achieve the goal. You see, and he gives the example because he spent so many years in India of these readings, these 7-day readings, Bhagavad Saptaha, following the lead of Parikit, who sat for 7 days, But everyone's going home and sleeping, turning on the TV after hearing the Bhagavad reading. But why do people go? Well, there's some titillation there because they always go right to the 10th canto, right to the rasa dance, So there's mixed motives. You're not supposed to do that. You have to kind of understand who Krishna is. It's the pinnacle of devotion. So he gave this example and then there's some interpreters who try to use the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada was a follower of Mahatma Gandhi, famously, before he met his spiritual master. And he was wearing the khadi, those who know, because it's you make the clothes at home, right? The spinning thing was Mahatma Gandhi's thing, rather than buy it, from England, the cloth. So Prabhupada would wear that, But then when he met his spiritual master and he began, becoming very, involved in the Gaudiya Math and so forth and hearing, he realized that Mahatma Gandhi was misusing the Bhagavad Gita. He always had a Bhagavad Gita, but he was saying, the real point of the Bhagavad Gita is ahimsa. How are you going to get ahimsa out of the Bhagavad Gita? Now, the Bhagavad Gita, that's one of the principles of knowledge in this 13th chapter, and it's also mentioned in the 16th chapter, I believe, when the divine and demoniac, divine qualities are given first. So, and probably right here, he's saying it's very, very sinful to kill the cows, So just if you're a vegetarian, that's good. That's a step in the right direction. At least you're not eating the cows, killing the cows anymore. But understanding the whole way in which karma works, and that if you're just happy-go-lucky, I don't see any God. Where's God? There's no God. I can do what I want, and you can eat all kinds of things and do all kinds of things, and you don't even, you're not thinking about the implications of your activity. This is one of the cardinal qualities of devotees. You're thinking long-term, because we're long-term as souls. We never die. So as soon as you understand and believe that we had life before and we'll have life again, the whole calculation of what you should do for your benefit should change. This life is just one spot life, and especially in Kali Yuga, when you read about how long they used to live in the previous yugas, even Arjuna, and they were living for 1,000 years, before that. And we're like, if you get to 100, centenarian, big deal. I'm almost at the average age now where people go, 70, late 70s, that's what it is, longevity. Oh, we increased it. It used to be 65 now, now it's 70. Big deal, And Prabhupada would always make the point, what's the advantage of a long life? The trees live hundreds of years, The whole point is to use the time that you have, whatever it may be, to advance your consciousness in such a way that you get, in your next life, at least you'll be born in a family of devotees and you'll continue your progress. Rather than be cast down, even lose the human form of life. It's such a tragedy. So this analysis of what to resolve, the whole point of this verse is Was it 17 we read? No, it was 16. So the different activities in different modes, you see. Sukritasya, the work, pious work, is said mode in the mode of goodness. So you'll be attracted to do charity work, to help others in trouble. This is where your heart opens up. You have some empathy. You can see, otherwise passion, you're always in the enjoying mood. You become very selfish. Greed is based on total selfishness. I don't care who's hurt, just let me pile up the money, And now you have people who are obscenely wealthy in this world. And as soon as the election happened, the guys who were sponsoring, their net worth went up billions of dollars in one day. That's horrible. What are they doing with that money? You realize how many temples that could build? What good that money could do? But no, these guys they're trying to get more. All they know is more. They greed, just like Krishna says in the 3rd chapter. What is that? Kamesha krodesha rajoguna samudvaham mahashano mahapama vidyanam ivaidinam. Arjuna asked, what is it that impels us to act and do things that we know are going to be harmful for us? What is it that, so, it's kama. Now, kama just doesn't mean sex desire. It means anything that is so powerful a desire that it covers your intelligence. And that happens all the time. So, and when it's frustrated, and it must be because the kama is never satisfied, so it's going to meet a brick wall at one time, And then you become angry, right? Little kids become angry. The older brother, the younger brother, what did you do? You stole my candy? Bang, right? And it starts right there, I won't tell the time I and my brother had a fight. I thought I was going to die. My father saved me. It sticks to my mind. Anyway, but that's material life, And so, but it's such a tragedy. You realize when you see a tragedy for human life to be wasted that way. I always love to quote this verse. Probably quote it a lot. After many, many births, we finally come to this human form of life. This is, I think, Krishna 11th canto in the Bhagavad Gita. Labdva sudurlabham means very difficult to attain. It's rare. How many? There's 8 billion of us. Big deal. There's probably that many ants in the next door neighbor. We're all souls, right? So labdva sudurlabham idam bahusambhavante. After many, many births, you've gotten this human form. Manusham, it's human or mankind. Same word. Artadam. Artadam means only in this form of life can you achieve the real goal of life, of the being a spirit soul, which is to again return to your place in the spiritual world. That's the idea. But it's temporary. It's one adnityam, like all forms of life. Time, the sun is rising and setting. Time is going. So therefore, the whole point. Don't waste time. So that's why the next word is. So one has to be dhira. We have to be thoughtful. That's very important. Be thoughtful. Consider the long-term implications. So then he says, turnam. Without wasting time. Don't think, should I or shouldn't I? Nah, let me go to the bar instead in the Hare Krishnas. No. Turnam yateta, strive. Immediately strive. As long as you're still alive. This word anamrityu, I think it can be interpreted as death is following you. Death is over your shoulder at any time. Walking on the street or driving it's real dangerous. When I was learning to drive, when I was 18, 19, 20, we had many highways on Long Island. The top speed was 55 for a long time. That was the speed limit. Now the top speed is, the speed limit is 60, but nobody drives 65. You go into the 80 lane. I don't go in the 80 lane because I have this car insurance where it's paid by the mile, and they have a little thing that has a stick in there, so they can know how fast I'm going. So though he's driving 80, we're going to raise his rates. He's going, and he's 77. Oh boy, we're never going to raise his rate. So I stay in the middle lane. I only go 75 now, but it's unheard of, And people are just driving, and then every so often you see an accident, So that's what this was. So this verse says, death is always over your shoulder, so don't waste any time. What should we do? Last line. Nikshayasaya vishaya kalasarva taksyat. Strive for the ultimate good. You have to know what that is. That is something beyond the temporary, obviously temporary, fleeting pleasures of this world, which ensure misery. They ensure you another birth, which itself is such a miserable situation. We forget, by Krishna's mercy, what it was like in the womb and to take birth, you know. Oh, and then, of course, you go through life and there's so many dangers and diseases and things. And then you get old and it becomes more difficult, you know, and then comes death. What is death? Most people, you know, they don't even want to think about it because it's just like a big black hole that they don't know what's going to happen. They think they're under the illusion that it's all going to be over. We have Dvijamani told, I don't know if you heard his class last night, but I had no idea that somebody out of depression because of what happened in the election, I'm not going to get into that, but you know, they committed suicide in the building, within the building. They have apparently a lot of the stairs that go way up, you know, 3 or 4 flights, and some young kid in the 20s, you know, just jumped down the stairs and they died, and the police came and everything, you know. This is what life is. And they think, oh, I want to end it. But that doesn't end it. No. And suicide is such a destructive thing. You become a ghost, and it's more misery, you know. So, but we want to end it too, but we don't want to do it that way. We want to end it by going to the spiritual world. End all of endless bodies here and risking losing the human form life and going down, you know. So if we have that knowledge, then we can act in such a way that we will no longer be influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance. You know, it will come down to the mode of goodness from the mode of pure goodness, you know, hopefully, if you get to that point. And the wonderful thing is that when you get to that mode of goodness and pure goodness, then the practices of Krishna consciousness become even more relishable. That's the whole idea. Your heart is more open, your mind is less prone to be distracted. That's the whole problem, is that we're chanting and chanting, but the mind is not fully hearing. You're not fully hearing the holy name and receiving it and appreciating it in full. That's the thing. So this chapter, and it's wonderful, it culminates in this essential verse. Arjuna, naturally, after all of this, he's representing us. He says, well, Krishna, can you now describe the qualities of one who has transcended the modes, and how can one transcend the modes? And so the last few verses are very, very encouraging. All right, any questions on this verse? This is activity in the mode of goodness.
Yeah.
Passion and ignorance described. Okay, go ahead.
I had 2 questions, if I may. The first
Just
one
keep
is,
it pointed. And
what is one to do who has previously consumed animals and consumed cows in their past?
Well, what do you think I did? I wasn't born into a nice Bengali, you know, devotional family. You just take up the process, and that the whole point is that it's all wiped away. All the karma. You chant Hare Krishna, the potency of the holy name is just incredible. What is it called? Madhura Madhura Metan, Mangalam Mangalanam, Sakala Nigamavalli, Satpalam Chitswarupam, Sakadabi Padigitam, Shraddaya Heliyava, Bhagavadanamatam, Tadiyet Krishna Nama. This is a verse describing the holy name. Madhura Madhura, very sweet, sweet, sweet. You know, eventually you appreciate how sweet it is. Madhura Madhura Metan, and the most auspicious of the auspicious things. Mangala Mangalam, Sakala Nigamavalli Satpalam. It is the ripened fruit of the creeper of all the Vedas. All the Vedic knowledge culminates in Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This is the verse about that. And then it says, Sakadabi Padigitam. If one chants, you can't chant once. Chanting means repeating. If uttered even once, you see, with faith or without faith, it clears away so many lifetimes of karma. We don't even realize how fortunate we are. But especially to make sure that you don't fall back into that, because if you fall away, you can go back to things that you know, bad habits. So you want to advance to the point where you're relishing. If you're enjoying like anything just by chanting Hare Krishna, why would you stop? You know, it's not like you're going to run out of mantras. You know, it's the most amazing thing. You read about, like, the Gaura Das Babaji, he's chanting 128 rounds a day. Of course, Haridas Thakur was doing 192 or another 64. But the point is, he was relishing at every moment, the association of Radha and Krishna, and he relishing the separation, which is even sweeter. Separation is ardent, and then you even think of them more. That's the whole point. So, whatever we've done in the past, I mean, there's so many instances, Jai and Vijay, and others. Even Valmiki, wasn't he a thief? I think he was a thief, right? So they become delivered. You're delivered, because all of that sinful reactions and all of these things that you have, this is superfluous to the soul. This is all under the supervision of the gods and also under the super soul. So Krishna has the option of wiping the slate clean when he sees that you're taking some serious steps toward him, and even if they're not so serious, it's just a great benediction. So this is all a great encouragement to please chant the holy name, even if for no other reason than to be free from your sinful reactions. But as soon as you chant, then you become more interested in the real essence of it, which is bhakti. So the point is, don't worry about it. Thank Krishna for making it so easy to become relieved from the great danger of suffering all the sinful reactions from that. And it should move you to try to help others who are completely ignorant. The ignorance is so dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing. We just saw that, last Tuesday. I promised I wouldn't talk about politics. But you know what I'm talking about. Ignorance, misinformation. People don't know what's what, and they think it's going to go this way, but it goes that way. But they don't know that everyone is under this misinformation given by Maya. Maya's job is to try to entice you and keep you covered, to see if you're serious about going back, and by receiving the knowledge. And the devotees, out of their mercy, they take so much trouble to try to give the books, try to enlighten people, give them the first step so they can come. So the answer to your question is, by chanting Hare Krishna, you've eradicated all that. You don't have to worry about it. But you want to become as fixed as possible in devotional service, so you don't get tempted to go back to that. Because we've seen, very rare, it's very rare that a devotee who's spent any time in the Hare Krishna movement will go back to meat eating. But they may go back to illicit sex, and even intoxication, But meat eating, it's such a, the vegans, the vegetarians, they have this understanding that it's horrible to torture animals and things like that, But we have a much more deep understanding of the whole thing, that these are souls, and cows are so valuable. They're like our mothers, So. But just become, serious about chanting the holy name and trying to live your life according to devotional principles. And you can breathe a deep sigh of relief that all of that others, that we should look upon it as, oh, that was a horrible, episode in my previous lives. But now I understand the position of all of these souls in animal bodies, and I'm not going to. I don't need to eat meat or any meat products in order to live, and I'm going to try to convince as many people as possible to give that up and follow the principles and be devotees. So that's the idea. The answer is, you don't have to be in anxiety. But those who aren't, they should be in great anxiety, and they should learn about Krishna consciousness. Yes, go ahead.
Well, so my second question, we talked, and this talks about the skyscraper, and then you mentioned the stock market reaction after the elections and things that. I guess I have kind of two questions, and it's along the lines of some of these people build these projects in passion, but with the intention of devoting all of the money to charity when they pass. And so I'm wondering how we feel about that when maybe the projects and the rewards of those projects are dedicated at some point in time to.
You're right. It's often the fact that wealthy people also have this impetus for charity, the conscience, or they don't want to be thought of as just greedy demons. There are all these libraries, the public library system. I think it was all started by Carnegie, right? He was like, it was the steel man, or the oil, I think oil steel, yeah. And so there's often that aspect, and that's good karma. So that, you know, that balances out to some degree. But the point is, all of that material stuff ultimately doesn't really help people. What they need is knowledge. And prasadam is also a very powerful weapon. You know, that's a way in which we have that food for life in different temples. We had it here for many years, where you make prasadam, you offer it nicely, then you go out to, you know, give it out to what is now called homeless people, you know. And so they may not appreciate so much, you know, where it's coming from, what this Hare Krishna is. Well, they usually get some literature also. But just eating the prasadam is very purifying. That, you know, it's spiritual. And in this life or next life, it's auspicious. So that's really, real charity means to give someone the chance to escape from the whole round of birth and death, because people don't realize that they're also, like the poor animals led to slaughter, that everyone's going to die, and if he's got a big load of bad karma, then he may lose the human form of life. It's tragic. So devotees try to, you know, help in that way. But yeah, I mean, karma is so complicated. Usually no one is a complete demon. He's done some good things, you know, for others, so there's a mix. But if it's all material, you're going to stay bound up in birth and death. And that's very inauspicious, because then you can eventually lose the human form of life and you're buried for, you know, many, many years. So Krishna consciousness is all auspicious for those who practice it and for those who receive it, you know. You had something? Oh, go ahead, Arjuna.
It's real quick. So I don't eat meat, of course, but I feed my dog meat. And so I'm very struggling because she's a carnivore, and I know there's people that feed the dog vegan, but you know, that's what I do for a living. I study predators, and I think it's hard for them to live with that. They need the protein, etc. But still, so what are the consequences for me that I'm kind of not enabling, but I'm providing that? And for her also, for her future in the karma. I mean,
I don't know. You might be in the same position in the next life. You'll be the pet of a nice devotee who's feeding you. I don't know. I can't. Like I say, I can't untangle the karma. Yeah, but it's not. You know, it's not ideal. Let's put it that way. You know that. I know it's difficult. You know, and we've had devotees who have pets, and they have pets, you know.
I don't feed her beef, I feed her chicken.
Well, that's better, certainly. All right, so it's 8 o'clock, and we have time to do another verse. We did 16, right? Oh, you have another question? Okay, a lot of questions tonight. Go ahead, Prabhu.
You talked about the mode of goodness and mode of pure goodness. What is the difference between them?
Oh, well, the mode of goodness is described in this chapter, and it says, you know, it's more pious. In other words, you're not engaging in gross sinful activity, but you're bound up. All the verses describing it, if you remember, nibadnati, they have the button. You're bound up by the sense of happiness that you experience in the mode of goodness. You're experiencing, you know, you're walking out in the forest, you maybe hearing classical music, you know, and you're not attracted. I mean, I was kind of like that especially after I took up yoga and I became a vegetarian. You know, I was like raw food, you know, and everything. And I wasn't, you know, I did not want to go to the rock concerts and all of that business, you know. I wasn't into that, but I was into my own, you know, kind of music. So the mode of goodness is a good platform upon which to build the spiritual practices. It's a lot easier. That's why I noticed that many times people who are vegetarians, they're interested in at least checking out the Hare Krishnas, because they know we're vegetarians, and you know, they come. Whereas those who are gross meat eaters, you know, not so interested. You know, it doesn't, because they know, yeah, they don't eat meat, you know, and they know we like the cows. So it's the mode of goodness is good, and basically, like a temple is supposed to be that, you know, clean. The cleanliness is a standard, you know, for the mode of goodness, the basic thing. And so that being clean and you know, being into activities that promote the mode of goodness, that are in the mode of goodness, make you more receptive to the message of Krishna consciousness. It mean more. Whereas those who are like, the mode of passion, because there's also an element of, violence, that if you get crossed, and everything, then it's much harder for them to take to Krishna consciousness. So we should cultivate the mode of goodness, and our practices, it'll be easier to be very regular in your practice in that way. That's how it's important. The mode of pure goodness means that's in the spiritual world. Shuddha sattva. It means there's no tinge of material desire, and basically that's the mode that's in Loka Vrindavan. Everything is auspicious and it's all wholesome because all you want is the pleasure of Krishna, and it's, that's what's going on up there. But the mode of goodness is always tinged. There's a tinge of passion to it, like that. All right, I think we do one more. 17. Let's see what that's about. Sorry. Okay. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobha evacha pramadamoha tamaso bhavato jnanam evacha. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness, and illusion. Purport: since the present civilization is not very congenial to the living entities, Krishna consciousness is recommended. Through Krishna consciousness, society will develop the mode of goodness. When the mode of goodness is developed, people will see things as they are. In the mode of ignorance, people are just like animals and cannot see things clearly. In the mode of ignorance, for example, they do not see that by killing one animal, they are taking the chance of being killed by the same animal in the next life. Because people have no education and actual knowledge, they become irresponsible. To stop this irresponsibility, education for developing the mode of goodness of the people in general must be there. When they are actually educated in the mode of goodness, they will become sober in full knowledge of things as they are. Then people will be happy and prosperous. Even if the majority of the people aren't happy and prosperous, if a certain percentage of the population develops Krishna consciousness and becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then there is the possibility for peace and prosperity all over the world. Otherwise, if the world is devoted to the modes of passion and ignorance, there can be no peace or prosperity. In the mode of passion, people become greedy, and their hankering for sense enjoyment has no limit. One can see that even if one has enough money and adequate arrangements for sense gratification, there is neither happiness nor peace of mind. That is not possible because one is situated in the mode of passion. If one wants happiness at all, his money will not help him. He has to elevate himself to the mode of goodness by practicing Krishna consciousness. When one is engaged in the mode of passion, not only is he mentally unhappy, but his profession and occupation are also very troublesome. He has to devise so many plans and schemes to acquire enough money to maintain his status quo. This is all miserable. In the mode of ignorance, people become mad. Being distressed by their circumstances, they take shelter of intoxication, and thus they sink further into ignorance. Their future in life is very dark. So here, this is all about the glories of the mode of, it describes all of them, but in goodness, it generates knowledge, and this is the real value here is that people in the mode of goodness who are vegetarians or whatever, like that, they're simply more receptive to Krishna consciousness. I mean, I was a million miles from Krishna consciousness. I told you I'm living in the Lower East Side, and wasn't a vegetarian, although I kind of was leaning toward that because the Paradox restaurant, does anyone remember? If you read the Lilamrita, you'll read about how the Paradox restaurant was important. People from there were the ones who were inviting Prabhupada to come down to the Lower East Side rather than stay up where he wasn't making any headway. Anyway, I remember that restaurant. And it had an influence on me. And there, I think at that point, I became a vegetarian. You could just go in there and for $1, you could get a big plate of brown rice with nice vegetables on it, And then you could stay all day and drink tea. and listen to all the people telling their adventures when they came back from India and stuff like that. It was kind of a vortex. Anyways, just so the motive of goodness, Prabhupada is glorifying here because exactly what I was saying, that it is conducive to the development of Krishna consciousness. But the danger is, as we learned earlier in this chapter, that the mode of goodness can eventually be covered by the mode of passion and even by the mode of ignorance. There's always a little battle going on, depending on what influences that, who you hang out with, you know, what kind of music you listen to. I mean, if you don't have any rules, you know, then you're subject to it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. And I don't know. I like telling this story because I regard it now, all these years later, as Krishna protecting me. You know, I never took LSD. I'm sitting in the middle of the Lower East Side where everyone's dropping LSD, but somehow I had the presence of mind. I don't know about that. I don't think that's a good idea. So one day I had some LSD in my hand. I'm sitting in my apartment. Actually, I'm lying back and saying, should I take this or not? I was all alone. And somehow I had the inspiration not to take it. I said, no, I don't think it's good. Because you hear about these bad trips, you know, and you need people around you to try to, you know, quiet you down. There was no one around. So I never took it. Never took it. And I'm so happy I did that, you know. Because this Krishna consciousness is like the best drug, you know. There's no downers. There's no bad effects. It's all good effects. And you know, 40, 50 years later, it's still bringing you happiness, you know, the same mantra, you know, even more. So this is, you know, the real revolution. And I'm glad all right. It wouldn't be complete without some kind of poem. You know. So I don't know if you know, I was on the Wisdom of the Sages. Have you ever got onto that thing? You know, that's coming out of the Bhakti Center in New York. So they asked me to kind of come on again. I did it some months ago, and because I know the guys who run it. Raghunath, I met him in Miami when he was becoming a devotee in like '83 or something. Anyway, they're both in India. Two guys who run it, Kaustubha and Raghunath. Right, and Raghunath was up in Nepal somewhere, so he wasn't near a computer. And Kaustubha was sitting there in Govardhan, you know, and he was talking to us, but the audio was going in and out because there were so many pilgrims there, and they're all going to get on their cell phones, and they have this one little, you know, tower, you know. But anyway, so I went on there, and they wanted to hear some poetry, so I gave them. So this one, some of you may not have heard. I know you haven't heard it yet, some of you. And this one, they really liked it. So it's the fall and redemption of the soul. Fall and redemption. There's no Sanskrit behind it. It's my own thing. Where Krishna lives, felicity abounds. Now there's some little difficult words. Felicity means happiness. You know. Where Krishna lives, felicity abounds with pure simplicity and loving sensibility, all serve him with humility. But when a living entity rejects his true identity and out of sheer stupidity surrenders to cupidity, he loses all sagacity and with it all capacity to understand reality or curb his sensuality. Abandoning humility, he touts his own ability, forgetting his fragility and fortune's volatility. Immersed in asininity for what seems an infinity of lives devoted to piety, he suffers in anxiety till contact with God's devotee, perhaps of utmost brevity, awakens his affinity for words of the divinity. Perceiving the futility of all his imbecility, the soul regains his sanity and casts away his vanity. Endowed with new humility, he serves with all ability and growing spontaneity his guru and the deity. Regaining his identity, the wayward living entity returns to the fraternity of Krishna for eternity. There you have it. And on that auspicious note, we'll prepare for the arti. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.